Greetings to our international church members. Thank you for tuning in. The title of today's sermon is The Temptation of Idols, and the passage is Exodus chapter 32, verse 1 to 8. Now when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people assembled around Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us a god who will go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what happened to him." Aaron said to them, "Tear off the gold rings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people tore off the gold rings which were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. Then he took the gold from their hands and fashioned it with an engraving tool and made it into a cast metal calf. And they said, "This is your God Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." Now when Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord." So the next day they got up early and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to engage in lewd behavior. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Go down at once, for your people, whom you brought up from the land of Egypt, have behaved corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a cast metal calf and have worshipped it and have sacrificed to it and said, 'This is your God Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt.'" Throughout July and August, we had Sunday sermons about temptation under the theme of "Catch the Little Foxes Ruining the Vineyards." There are 8 in total, and the 7 of them were the temptation of choice, temptation of wealth, sex, power, arrogance, self-flaunting, and cult. However, we still want false temptations such as wealth and power. Pastor Timothy Keller said these things like money, success, honor can become idols in his book Counterfeit Gods. So the 8th and last title of today is The Temptation of Idol. And what are idols? Idols are man-made image of a deity other than God. Starting from the Buddha statue of the temple and the Mary statue of the cathedral, we human beings created non-living idols for centuries. People believe that idols have power beyond us. In Genesis 31, when Jacob escapes from Laban's house, his wife Rachel steals her father's teraphim. A teraphim was a 20 to 50 centimeter sized household guardian statue. Israelites settled in Canaan also believed Baal and Asherah idols, believing that they brought abundance and fertility. The problem is not about making idols, but serving idols. Idolism is a problem because it leads to a matter of worship. If you look at today's passage, Exodus chapter 32, the Israelites escaped from Egypt with God's help. Yet their mind changed in the wilderness. When God called Moses to the mountains to give him the 10 commandments, people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain. Feeling anxious, the Israelites tell Aaron, Moses' brother, to make them a god. At last, Aaron makes them a gold calf and says, "This is your God Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt." But it doesn't end there. They give burnt offerings and peace offerings to the gold calf. Idols don't end up being created, but leads to worshiping it. So first key sentence is people make idols, but idols make people worship. Humans are vulnerable, so they tend to believe what is visible more easily than what is invisible. Instead of the invisible God, the visible calf gave the Israelites more faith. Even J.C. Ryle mentions that there is a desire in the mind of a natural man to make belongings of God's divinity, into a form he can see, touch, and feel. We have a bad habit of replacing God over other visible things. Idols are made to comfort our hearts, but they don't actually have the effect. Do you know what the most fatal weakness of idol is? Let's read the book of Judges. So they said to one another, "Who did this thing?" And when they searched and inquired, they said, "Gideon the son of Joash did this thing." Then the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, that he may die, for he has torn down the altar of Baal, and indeed he has cut down the Asherah which was beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, Will you contend for Baal, or will you save him? Whoever will contend for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, since someone has torn down his altar. When Gideon was on the verge of death, Joash, father of Gideon, says to let Baal contend for himself. In fact, Joash wanted to say Baal is actually nothing. People believe that idols will bless us, but it's not true. So, second key sentence, idols may seem to give blessings, but are actually scarecrows. The reason why the Israelites created a golden calf are alike. In ancient societies, cow was the symbol of power and fertility, but the golden calf was just a metal statue. Therefore, things that are thought to bless us, are our own idols, are scarecrows. Professor Min Soo Han mentions that idol and idolatry are the main themes that go through the entire Old Testament in his book, The Idols of the Ancient Near East and the Old Testament. Thus, we must realize that the problem of idols is the most fundamental temptation of all temptations. The first and the second from the 10 Commandments, which Moses received from God, was about idols. The first commandment is, "You shall not have any gods before me," and the second commandment is, "You shall not make yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them." It should be clear that idols do not bless us. Then how can we overcome the temptation of idols? By going back up to Bethel. In Genesis chapter 35, Jacob's perfect life was in danger. Jacob's sons killed every male of the Hivites because their sister Dinah was raped. However, at the time of danger, they go back up to Bethel. Bethel was the place where Jacob first met God. In order to overcome the temptation of idols, one must abandon the false gods and return to Bethel, that is to say, our true God. If you look closely at the first verse, Jacob did not arise, but God called him. God called, "Arise, go up to Bethel and live there and make an altar there." God still tells us to come up to Bethel. So the last key sentence would be, we are truly blessed when we go up to Bethel. I hope we all can return to God, who gives us true blessings. Our Bethel is a place where we meet God, where we meditate on the Word of God. Now I'd like to finish with Numbers 6:24-27. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord cause his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his face to you and give you peace. So they shall invoke my name on the sons of Israel, and then I will bless them.